Hi, my name is Michelle Saffiels, and I have delivered 4 babies at Salem Health in the last 5 years, and we're just so grateful for the care that you guys provide to your patients. We had such amazing nurses who were so knowledgeable and so caring, and we're just so thankful for all you guys do for the people who receive care at your hospital. Today I wanted to share with you about our 4 babies. This is our daughter Nora, this is our son Toby, and our son Lewis. And this is our first son, Ezra, and we had Ezra on October 14th, 2012. I was 38 weeks pregnant with him and realized I just wasn't feeling him move that afternoon. And so we went into Salem Health that evening, and when we arrived at Salem Health, we found out that he had already passed away, and we were just devastated. We were induced in the early morning hours of October 14th, and after 12 hours of labor, I delivered Ezra, and we found out that it was his cord that was making the issue for him. We are just so grateful for the nurses that walked through that time with us. Melissa was actually one of our nurses, and we just received such excellent care. And the nurses really just were so caring to us in those first moments after we lost our son, when you're in those initial stages of grief and shock. And we were just so thankful for all of them. We wanted to talk a little bit today about the transition for moms and couples as they leave the hospital and are doing physical recovery after losing a baby. Physically, it was so overwhelming for me. He was my first son. I had never gone through a delivery. I had never gone through postpartum recovery, so I had no idea what it was supposed to look like. I didn't know what was normal, what were warning signs I should be watching for. All of it was just unknown and very overwhelming. I think the process would be overwhelming whether it's your first time delivering a baby or not, but I think especially for those first time moms, it's just a really overwhelming process. The physical recovery is also just a painful reminder of what just happened. You just went through a pregnancy and delivered a baby, but you don't get to have that baby, and so it's a continual reminder of what you just did and what you also just lost. Emotionally, when you leave the hospital, there's so much that you're processing. You're in those initial stages of grief where you're just in shock. It doesn't feel real. Your baby just died, but your brain can't quite grasp it yet, and so you're really in a stage of shock. And your emotions are just so raw, and right away there's a lot of decisions you have to make. You have to decide what to do with your baby. Do we bury them? Do we cremate them? What cemetery do we put them at? Do we do a service? What funeral home do we go through? Who do we invite to the service? So many decisions that you never dreamed you would be making for your child, you're now having to make. And instead of still being pregnant or having your baby in your arms, you're having to decide what to do for their end of life. And it's a huge shift in mindset from what you were anticipating. And for the mom during this phase, she's really probably in the what ifs phase, where she's questioning everything she did at the end of that pregnancy, and most likely she's blaming herself for what happened and asking herself all sorts of questions. What if I had done this? Should I have been watching for some warning signs? What if I could have caught it if I had seen warning signs? Is there something I could have done differently? And so her mind is actually pretty focused on the what ifs and is not even really thinking about how do I care for myself so I can recover. And for the mom or the couple, they're thinking a lot about what do we do next? How do we move forward in life? We just lost this baby that we were so excited to parent, and for first time parents, now they're no longer in parenthood. They're going back to just being a couple, and how do they do that? And for parents who have kids, they have to go home and continue parenting and walk their children through grief while they're walking through grief themselves. And they're also having to tell all their friends and family, we just lost our baby. So there's a lot of stuff as they're moving forward that they're trying to figure out, how do we do this? How does life work now? This video could provide an accessible format for Salem Health to communicate important information to these patients as they're transitioning home and are trying to figure out how to care for their bodies. When we came home from the hospital, we received a packet that had really, really great information in it that Salem Health had put together. But we put everything from Ezra and from the hospital right into his nursery, and we really didn't look at any of it because it was really hard for us at that time. But I didn't realize how much good information was in that packet, and I found it about a year later when we were getting ready for our next baby and saw this information and realized, wow, I really wish I had seen this right at the beginning when I was in that physical recovery time. And at that stage in grief, for a couple or for a woman, I think reading through a lot of information might be a difficult task for them. And so a video might be a more easy way for them to take in that important information and might help it be a more smooth and less daunting transition to go from the care at the hospital to caring for themselves at home. So I just wanted to give a real quick overview. Melissa wanted me to highlight just some key points in each section of this proposed script. And it would just start with a basic introduction from Salem Health, just communicating your desire for the care your patients would receive and also expressing condolences to the woman or the couple for their loss. And then it would go into a second section just about physical care, and it would just give a basic overview of how the woman can care for her body, basic tips of how she can be taking care of her body and helping it heal, warning signs to be watching for of her body not properly healing or even potentially dangerous situations as she's healing. And it also just encourages the mom to take time and give her body time to recover. She's just done a pregnancy and she needs time to be able to recuperate. The third section would be about emotional care, and this section is meant to just give encouragement to the couple that they're not alone in this recovery process. It encourages them that grief is going to be unique to them as individuals and that there's not a timeline on grief, and to not feel pressured into a timeline for their grief. And it would encourage them that they don't have to walk this process alone. In this section, it would highlight a few support groups in the area that they could become a part of, and also encourage them, if they need some counseling at any point, to feel free to reach out for that counseling, and that that's okay, and that a lot of people have to do that in this process. And it would also encourage them, if they feel like they're just not coping well with grief and are just feeling really alone in it, to reach out to their medical provider, to reach out to their support person, to their family, to their friends. We just don't want them to feel alone in this difficult time. The fourth section would just be a brief section on resources available to them. We would want to highlight Hayden's Helping Hands, which is an organization that provides funds to help pay for the medical expenses for the baby. There's a list of resources that Salem Health already gives out in the packet that has some really, really great resources available for these couples, and so we would just refer to that list of resources. And it would also give information just about how you, Salem Health, how you reach out to these families and how you continue to reach out to these couples or women after they've left the hospital and are walking this journey of grief. So we would want to just encourage them with how you continue to reach out to them. And the last section is just a basic conclusion that gives the patient an opportunity to feel supported by Salem Health, and also encourages them to ask any questions that they have before they're discharged and leave to go home. So that's the basic overview of the proposed script, and we just thank you so much for taking the time to consider this project. We really do so appreciate Salem Health and all you do, and are just grateful for the way you reach out to families who've experienced loss. You guys do an excellent job of caring for families in the hospital and continuing to reach out to them down the road. So thank you. It truly means the world.